Good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Homan, and I'm Chief Marketing Officer for McGowan Brabender. On behalf of all of us, we welcome you here today. For many of you, we talked up front, it's your first time in the building. It's great to have you. For return guests, thank you for coming back. You've obviously never sat through one of my presentations before. So we will jump right into things, and I'm going to start with something that's probably not going to set you at ease. If I'm highly successful, when you walk out of this room, you will remember 10% of what I say. In any given presentation, you walk away retaining 10%. How do I know this? Everything I'm talking about today is science, okay? This is probably a little bit different presentation that you've sat through. And so everything I'm talking about today has been proven, has been studied, has been validated. And I'm fascinated with this. I actually started off as a psychology major when I started college, and I was trying to find myself, and it was one of my 50 majors at one time. But I wish I had stayed with it. I have a marketing degree, but I wish I had also taken the psychology side of things, because that's where I find that I gravitate towards today, because I like to do things that I know have been proven to work, will work, and are repeatable and sustainable over time. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And so, okay. I have the right deck now. Okay. So I want to start with a question. Why do we struggle with benefit communication?
There's so much information.
So much information.
Not all of it applies to everybody.
Not all applies to everybody. So people check out. What else? They don't understand. They don't really want to learn about it in the moment. They want to learn about it when they're accessing their benefits. What else? And let's talk about open enrollment for a minute. Why is benefit communication so hard during open enrollment?
If they're re-enrolled, they've already had some of the benefits, so they're just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so you've got half the group that has it on autopilot, not really paying attention. And then conversely, there may be a lot of changes that are taking place, okay? And so there are all these different factors that are coming in. And so in that situation where I'm here, but I really don't want to be, not going to use the benefits, don't really care, you've got that group checking out immediately. And then about 10 minutes into the presentation, you've managed to lose everyone else for different reasons. So we're going to talk about today, when you're presenting, how to command their attention, how to keep their attention, and how to get them to retain what we've talked about. I think this group is a lot smarter than 10%. So at the end of this presentation, we're going to test you and see what you actually do remember. So I'm going to tell you here today, I want you to slow down to speed up, okay? And the first time I presented this, everybody in the room was sitting there, and I think they were expecting me to show them a new piece of technology, a new app that solves their problems. Because really, don't apps solve all of our problems today? That's what they tell us, okay? You're probably looking for something new, a brand new concept, a new direction to go in. I'm here to tell you, if that's what you're looking for, you can go ahead and check your cell phone. You can plan the rest of your day, okay? Because I'm not going to bring you a lot of new ideas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slow down and have you replay these scenarios in your mind, and you will understand what you're doing today is not working and why it's not working. The good news is I'm at the same time going to show you how do we fix the problem and bring people in, okay? And so this right here, and the other thing I will say is right now, especially the last 2 years, I have really run into a lot of employers that are beyond frustrated. Because as I work closer here with Population Health and Tiffany, and she goes out and talks to clients, you guys are so frustrated because you're doing all the right things. You're finding the point solutions. You're holding your employees accountable. You're communicating arguably more than you ever have before, yet you are not getting the same results, or you're not getting any type of results that you were hoping for, okay? If it's any consolation, I'm going to tell you, it's not your strategy. You have the right strategy. It's what you're saying, how you're saying it, and when you're saying it, okay? And so it all has to do with a lot of my conversation today is going to focus around our working memories. And our working memory is, in any given situation, it's our ability to absorb what's going on around us, to file it in our brains, and then be able to, in a second's notice, recall it and apply it, okay? Our working memories suck, okay? And it's gotten worse. It has gotten worse over the last 10 to 15 years. Any idea why? Technology, social media, noise, 5,000 channels out there, everybody fighting for our attention. So what do they do to get through? They scream louder, they scream more often, and it's having an opposite effect that's out there. So I will give you an example. That there is a picture of the bane of my existence. I am a lifelong Bengals fan, okay? I know. So the only thing that I can hang my hat on is Cleveland's having just as bad of a year as we are. So, but I've been a season ticket holder for years and years, okay? But every game, something happens, and it has to do with my working memory. I've had the same seats for all those years. This is it, section 316, row 18, seat 15. Yet, every week, without fail, I walk through the gate, they scan my ticket. I keep my phone out. I don't even put it in my pocket. Why? Because I got to look down, okay? Then I begin my 2-mile journey from the gate to my seats. You can see where they're at. But I get at the base of the escalator, 316, 18, 12, okay? I go through it, 15, 15, 15. I get to the top of the escalator, 15. I got to go to the bathroom because I've been tailgating. So I come back in, I get my drink. I'm walking to the stands, 15, 15. Wait, what row was that? And I look down. I know where I'm going, but I don't trust my working memory. And that's with something that is familiar. The reason that happens is it's all the other factors that are suddenly coming in, the other distractions, the other noise that are competing for that attention, and they take over your working memory. Our goal today is to figure out, when you are presenting to a group of employees about benefits, how do you keep their working memory in the moment, focus their attention, okay? There's a gentleman by the name of John Medina. He is the world's foremost authority on neuroscience. And he has decided to dedicate his career to helping businesses understand neuroscience and the way that your brain fires off, why it fires off, why it doesn't. And this is what he says after working with companies for a very short time, okay? And these are Fortune 50 companies that he works a lot with, okay? And this is what he's saying. You guys, if you treated everything else like you do your PowerPoint presentations, we'd be in a lot of business. And I want you to go back for a moment. And I want to ask you, how do you treat your PowerPoint presentation for open enrollment? Okay? For many of you, it's about this time of the year, because I want to take you through the whole sequence. You're going through those last-minute negotiations and benefit changes. You're going back and forth with the carrier. You're going back and forth with McGowan Brabender or whoever you work with. It's a very stressful job. It's a very stressful time. And so you finally get everything buttoned down, and you find you have a very short, compressed timeline to do your presentation, okay? Is that always the last thing that's done? The PowerPoint presentation? Okay. Is it always the most rushed part of the whole process? And we're worried about, we don't have time to memorize a presentation, so what do we do on all of our slides? Too much information, because when all else fails, what can we do? Read from the slides, okay? I want you to just think about that, how effective that really is. And are you trying to check a box, or are you trying to really accomplish a goal and hit on all cylinders that are out there? And so I'm going to start with my 10 non-negotiables for benefit communication, okay? And the first one is to simplify. Oh, I've already seen people checking their phones because you're like, oh, simplify, wow, rocket science, okay? I will tell you, this is the biggest reason why we fail today in benefit communication. We fail to simplify things to its most basic element, okay? And that means in concept, it means with what is most important for that employee to hear in the moment, and it's about getting rid of everything that is non-essential to complete that task that is out there, okay? And so it's simplifying. So if you wrote a postcard and it has 20 words in it and you can say it in 12, say it in 12. You simplify until you cannot simplify the message anymore. People ask me, how do I know I've simplified it enough? Because you can't simplify it anymore. You can't break it down. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is how do we go about simplifying. Anybody know what this is? Besides my kids' college sink? This is open enrollment, okay? Look familiar? It's the old, I call it the kitchen sink syndrome, because it's the one time a year we get everybody together, we get them focused on benefits, and what do? We make it a cattle call for everything in the world that we want to talk to them about. So it's not just about the benefits, it's about the point solutions that accompany the benefits. It's about all the different programs that you have. It's about the carrier programs. It's about showing them every sheet that the carrier shared with you when they were selling you the plan. It's about your wellness program. Oh my gosh, we can also give them all of our printed notices that we need to, and we can go through and explain it to them. Oh, we've got to have a state of the company address in there too. And of course, another department needs to also do an update. Does this sound vaguely familiar or resonate with any of you? Okay. Now, this is what you want to accomplish. What do your employees want to accomplish? Okay, what information do they want? How much does it cost?
And what do they have to do?
What do I need to do? One more.
What's different?
What's changing? Those are the only three things in the world that matter to them. You think that you are going to inspire them to become a better healthcare consumer in the 45 minutes that they're with you in that room, and that's not happening. They have three primal needs, and you need to meet those three primal needs for them, okay? And so what I do is I go back and I look. If you can only talk about three things, which is the max of what you can go through in a meeting where they will retain and be able to regurgitate the information, 3 is your max, okay? So go through and make an agenda of everything you go through during open enrollment. You can only have 3. So start taking things off the back end and figuring out, what can I do outside of open enrollment to communicate this information? Because it's useful, it's important, but it's not important to the people in that moment, okay? Because there's a direct conflict that we walk into open enrollment with regarding communication. We want to be both transactional to get them to sign up for benefits, get them enrolled, but we also want to be transformational, okay? The two are in direct conflict with each other for open enrollment, okay? They want one thing, you're pushing another. Do you see where the disconnect starts from there? Okay, so is open enrollment, should it be transactional or transformational? Transactional. Your goal for open enrollment, and I get in debates with clients all the time, your goal for open enrollment is to get your employees enrolled in the best plans for them for the upcoming year. Period. End of story. If you are trying to accomplish more, I would challenge you to stop or pause. You can make open enrollment a highly effective transaction if you go about it the right way, and you make the path easier for them to get from point A to point B. What you can do is you clear everything out of the way that they don't need to know. Okay? I played the music at the beginning, kind of put you on edge. I was joking about that. Then like think in a meeting, when somebody asks you to get up and turn to the person next to you and start talking, what does that do to a lot of people in the room? Get your anxiety up a little bit? That's how amped up these people are when they walk into the meeting, especially if you've not shared anything with them before the meeting. And let me tell you, if you're sending out postcards, if you're trying to hype it up, if your attendance is low and you're trying to get everything there, putting in a postcard, big changes coming for open enrollment, don't miss it. And you just float that out there. We think it's cool and it's clever and it's marketing gimmicky. What did you just do to that employee? In the absence of information, what are they going to do? They're going to create their own narrative, and it's not going to be a good one, okay? So they're amped up. So what you want to do is give them as much information prior to walking into the meeting so that when they walk into the meeting, you're clarifying, you're answering questions, and you're giving them a punch list of things to do. We'll go a little bit deeper into that later. 1, anybody know what that 1 stands for? Because we're going to have a ratio. 3 topics per presentation. And what does the 1? Any idea? No? 1 message per slide. Okay? I'm going to pause a moment so we can all write that down because we will forget that the second we walk out of this room. 1 message per slide. And I will show you why as we go through this. Like I said, it's an experiment. Okay? So, if we're only having 1 message per slide, it's hard for them to get off. It's hard for them to get derailed or get distracted and not be brought back into the conversation. But if you don't, something like this could happen. Now, here's my disclaimer. First of all, I apologize. I don't think this is anybody's slide in the room, but I get asked to review them quite a bit, okay? It took me a while to recover from my aneurysm after looking at this one, okay? Lots of stuff going on here, okay? Is there just 1 message on this slide? Okay? And I'll say to oversimplify things, let's just say for the sake of the argument, we have 2 different messages. We're going to talk about flexible spending account, limited FSA, and then dependent care FSA, okay? So let me give you a scenario. You're sitting at a party, you're talking with someone in conversation, there are people around you talking, and at some point you think you hear your name mentioned in a conversation. So what do you do as soon as you hear your name? You start listening to them, okay? But the other person's talking to you. So what do? I have no idea what you're saying, but I heard my name over here, okay? Think of that in an open enrollment meeting. Think of it since you walked in. Somebody may have coughed. Somebody next to you may have dropped their pen on the ground. You may have gotten, your wrist may have buzzed because somebody sent you a text. That distracted you for a split second. You looked at that. I look back up at this slide, and I have no idea where I'm at, okay? So I can either try to get re-engaged, or I don't, okay? In most cases, people don't. If you only have 1 message on a slide and you're controlling them, you're back on message. You're back on point, okay? But we seem to be going through this phase where we're trying to simplify. We think we're simplifying because, oh my gosh, we can't go through a 50-slide deck. We can't have more than 6 slides. So what do those 6 slides look like? Do they look like that? Okay? It doesn't matter. There is not a rule. Here's your next thing. It's okay to have 100 slides in a deck. 1 slide, 1 message. Okay? So keep that in mind. It's all about controlling focus and bringing them in. Okay? So that's the first thing. The second non-negotiable is storytelling. Okay? Don't underestimate the power of stories. Okay? And I want to take you back to when you were a little kid, 3, 4, 5 years old, and you would sit down and your parents would read you a book, someone else would, and you'd go through it. Maybe you were in school. Is there a book, a story book that you guys remember to this day? Shout it out. I'm sorry, what?
Where the wild things.
Where the Wild Things Are. What do you remember about that? Like, what about that book made you, why do you remember that?
I think the illustration with the child was quite scary.
Yeah, the power of pictures, which we're going to go through. But it's a story. We remember and connect to stories. Our lives are built on stories. Yet we forget about stories when we're talking about benefits, because the benefits is more about the technical side, the nuts and bolts, the things you need to do. I would challenge you with whatever you are talking about, tie it back to a story, okay? And we're really attempting to do this and get our clients to do the same when you're talking about things like the old embedded, non-embedded deductible, okay? It's hard to get a person to understand that, okay? When you're just saying an embedded deductible, you have this, and then they meet this deductible, and then they hold, and then over here, I want you to remember this, and then it kicks in, okay? And what I'm saying is instead, here's the Smith family, okay? And Mr. Smith went, and he's had 18, this is their deductible, okay? They have an embedded deductible. And so he goes and he hurt his knee playing tennis, had to go for physical therapy. He spent $1,800, okay? His daughter, going in for her regular wellness checks and everything, doesn't even apply because it's wellness. So we bring that up. And then we go to the wife. She's gone and she's had this much. So we start to do an illustration and we're adding up numbers. And suddenly now it makes sense because the dad knows, I've met mine, I'm kind of in a holding pattern. And then it picks up. So stories connect. You're able to step inside. You look at a story and you can put yourself, you can take yourself, put you in that story, and you can apply it to your life situation. And that sticks with them. They will remember that. They may not remember the nuances of an embedded deductible, but they know how it works from that point on. So I am really a proponent of stories. But with every story, I want you to think about this. There's a hero and there's a villain. And every story, to be a good story, has to have a hero and a villain. Okay? Now with benefits, and you're talking to when you're talking to the group, who's the hero? Who's the potential hero? No? The employer and the employees. They have a say in this. So what you do is you need to get them on board. It's the we're all in this together, and you share information. Look, guys, we're fighting healthcare inflation that is ridiculous. When healthcare inflation wins, that means less money available for pay increases, less money for us to buy machinery out there, new updated machinery for you depending on the situation. You're creating that image for him. And now they can be the hero. So the way you say it is, look, we put together these programs. We know where our high claims are coming from. If we all work together, we can beat the trend. Don't we want to be better than the trend here? And what does that trend mean? It means that we're able to actually give you better benefits in the future. We're able to offer you better tailored solutions. Excuse me. Customized solutions for you. You need to create the ideal state for them, and you can do that with heroes and villains. And I will tell you what, healthcare is the villain, okay? You can certainly help them and share the stories then during the year when something happens and the employee did something that they share with you, share that out and send it to your employees and say, hey, it's a victory for the home team. We did a good job. That gets them thinking like an owner of their benefit program and not a renter. Do we want renters or owners? We want owners. Pride of ownership that's out there. Number 3, Picture superiority effect. And I've talked about this for years and years. I just didn't realize that it was actually a proven scientific method. So and picture superiority effect is simply when you hear something, like I'm talking to all of you now, or you read something off a piece of paper, your retention for that is around 10%, okay? I mentioned 10% at the beginning where we talked about remembering, okay? Does that make you feel really good and comfortable for all your efforts, okay? Let me show you now. If you take that text that's out there and you add a picture to it, retention-wise, look where that number went to. 65%. That's picture superiority effect that's out there. And so I encourage you to use pictures. I encourage you to use vivid pictures, something they will remember and tie back to the beginning, okay? Let me just do a quick check for you, just scientific experiment. A couple slides ago, I had that limited purpose FSA and I had the dependent care. Who can tell me some of the things that they remember, highlights from the slide, important points? Why? Because we made a judgment when we looked at that. I'm not even going to pick up that hot coal. I'm leaving it alone, okay? Remember at the very beginning of the presentation, for a split second, I popped up something and it looked like it was out of the ordinary, and I'm like, what's that? What was that? What kind of donut was it? What type of frosting? Wow. You guys looked at something for a split second and you were able to remember that. But all this very important information that you've got to know at the time you're enrolling in the plan, I need to know how I'm going to file a plan at the end of my next plan year. That's going to determine how much I'm going to put in or how much I'm going to enroll in. It's not important in the moment. Do you see, though, how I can substitute and swap things out and suddenly the retention is up? Don't we wish we could all remember chocolate frosted donuts all day? Okay? You will. I will tell you this. I did that same exercise back in 2008 at a consultant summit that we had here at McGowan Brabender. To this day, people that were in that room, when I get in front of the group, I ask them, 2008, started a presentation, what was it? They can describe it. It's retention, it's the power of the mind, okay? That's out there. Redundancy effect. There's a very smart man by the name of John Swelling-Meyer, okay? And he said that there is an effect that we are all accused of committing. And I've done it before in my career too. So tell me if, I know it never happened to you, I'm asking for a friend, okay? But we didn't quite prepare for our presentation, so we wrote out everything, and then what do you do during the meeting? You've sat in there. What do they do? Read verbatim. Is that worse than fingernails on a chalkboard when they do that? Especially when they've got 15 bullets on the page and they're on bullet 3 10 minutes into the slide? You have checked out a long time ago, okay? So instead of showing the picture of it and say, bears enjoy eating honey. When that happens, do you know how much you retain? Take a guess. 10%. No, not even 10%. 0 or close to 0. When you read at the same time you're hearing something, it's a cancellation. It's called the redundancy effect. I had no idea, but now I know. Here I thought I was just bored. They were intentionally trying to keep me from learning, and I resent that. So the way that we go back and look at this slide is we simply have the picture and we speak to the slide. Why? If we read verbatim off a slide, do you trust that person? Do you feel they're credible?
No.
I can get somebody off the street to read the PowerPoint slide. Your job being in front of them is to be a credible source of information, to set them with confidence, to make them feel like they can leave the room and go out and put into practice what you just told them. But that's not happening. We can do it though. Number 5, emphasize and de-emphasize. We have the ability of controlling attention. We just don't do it today. Or we're doing it, but we are doing it in a very bad way we're not supposed to, okay? Before we start, and I start this slide, are there any CFOs in the room? Any controllers? Good, because I'm going to pick on them. So I want to talk to you about emphasis. Where's your attention? Where's your attention? It's not a trick question. What are you looking at? Me? Okay, I'm telling you, I'm not trying to embarrass you. Okay? Okay, you're on me. Where's your attention? It pulled your attention, didn't it? Who are you looking at? Who are you looking at? Here? Here, okay? We use contrast the wrong way. Do you know why we use contrast the wrong way? When PowerPoint came out originally, this is how everybody's slides look like. Okay? Over time, they look like this. Any ideas why? Why do all of our PowerPoint presentations today have a white background? What? Shout it out. I'm deaf.
So you can print them without using
Oh my gosh! Because at one point in time, your CFO walked by the printer, looked at all this ink and said, oh, we can't have this because today we're paying 0.00001 for a copy, but if it's color, we pay 0.001 cent per copy. So we can't have that. So what do? We make them white. Now, in any presentation, I'm in here, it's me and it's the presentation. What is most important? Me. This supports what I'm telling you about. We hold ourselves hostage to PowerPoints. When they're focused on this, they're not focused on this, and so they're not focused on this. What they're focused on is reading. And if you happen to read something while they're reading it, forget about it. Gone forever. Okay? So I want to talk to you about contrast and how you can use it. And we'll go through that in a little bit more. Because see, the other thing is, did you notice, like, when that's bright, at least in my eyes, that kind of gets my senses up, doesn't it? It's like it's bright and it's in your face and it's kind of there. This is a little bit more calming. It's a little more soothing. Do you see? And it's something that we've never really thought about or gone through, but your job in that meeting for open enrollment, we keep talking about open enrollment, is to disarm them. Your job is both the technical side of things, and you're also a psychologist and counselor in that meeting. They're very nervous that they are going to make the wrong decision. If you are confident, if their attention is focused on you, if you give them examples, they can suddenly relate to, you know what, that'll work for me. It worked for this family, that'll work for me too. So what we're starting to do is we're getting that level of tension and anxiety down with them, and we're setting them up to remember things and recall things, which is what we want to do. Because ultimately, open enrollment, what do we want them to do? Enroll in benefits. We will worry about transformation the other 364 days of the year, okay? So, color and size matters. So indulge me for a minute. I want you to all close your eyes. It's funny, every time I do this, there's always the two people that are like, I don't trust you. So they're kind of staring at me. And if that's the case, I'm staring right back at you, okay? So I'm going to tell you something, and for the rest of your life, you're going to remember this, okay? From now on, every time you'll become more conscious of it. Every time you open up your eyes, you will notice 4 things immediately. It will always grab your attention regardless of what you're doing. moving objects, signaling colors, high contrast items, and very large objects. Okay, you can open up your eyes. And I'm telling you, you will notice the rest of your life those 4 things. Because I presented this and I've had people come back and they're like, I never realized until you said that. And one of the perfect examples for that is think of yourself going out and having, let's talk about moving objects. You go out with your friend and you go to a restaurant, maybe there's 2 couples there, and you are really focused in on them. And you're listening to them and you're making eye contact. And all of a sudden, a host is walking by with 3 people and a stack of menus. And you kind of glance up and it grabs your attention. And you go back and what do? We've lost them, but what do? Okay? We're talking. Moving objects will grab your eyes. You're in that same restaurant and you're eating, and up on the TV there's a lacrosse game going on. And you have 0 interest in lacrosse, but what do you find yourself doing continually? Looking up at the television. Moving objects will always grab your attention and try to change your focus. Okay? So we have to be, if we recognize that, we can start to use movement in our PowerPoint slides to drive home certain points. Okay? And you'll see that in a moment. The next thing, signaling colors. Red, yellow, and orange. Those are signaling colors. Those will always grab your attention. Obviously, we're conditioned to red and yellow, aren't we? We see that. That's why traffic signals are that way. For that very reason, it grabs our attention. Now, there's a good way to use signaling colors, and there's a bad way, and I'll show you in a minute the bad way, okay? But look at that. Does that constantly, even though I'm talking, what happens? Where's your attention going? Why? Blinking. It's moving colors. Okay? Now, let's go back to this slide, which I did not design. Did I mention that? I just want to make sure. Okay? There's a lot of stuff going on here. Okay? But what is the first thing? Where do your eyes immediately go? To the headline. Which is what? And it should because it's in red. Is that the most important part of the slide? If I can only have the people remember one thing walking away from this slide, is that what we want them to walk around looking at? Because we were always trained what has to be the biggest font on the page? The headline. Why? Because we were told? Because when we look at the drop downs, they go in order and it says like for style, title, subheading, heading, and we think, oh, title is the name of the slide. Rethink that. Reset your expectations. Looking at this slide, though, oh my Lord, just what do you look at when you look at that slide after you look at the headline? The quotes? Okay. Who looked at something else besides the quote? Okay. What did you look at?
The names of the companies.
Names of the companies? What did? Names of companies? That's interesting, though, isn't it? Because after signaling colors, what do we look at? Pictures, which is what the logos are because it's not words. I will tell you one thing in here, and we're going to talk about it in a moment. You process words and have to create pictures of words in your mind so that you can process that information. So when I look at the word, if I look at the word health plan, in my mind instantly, my mind is creating a picture of it, and then it's feeding back to me so I can understand it and talk about it. But that takes up a lot of brain power. When there's a picture up there, I can just kind of see it. I don't need to process it. It's already created the picture. And we're going to see to what degree that is, okay? But do you see how I'm also bringing in, and this is a situation where they asked me to fix the slide. And so I was like, can I start over? And they said no. So I said, we're going to do things a little bit differently, okay? The first thing I did from here to here is what did I do? What? Signaling colors, because you were right. The health plan, you said the quotes or whatever, that's what's important. That's what we're talking about. Not the headline. It's there. I'll eventually look at that, but I don't even need to look at the headline if I'm listening and following along. Do you see the other thing? I'm bringing it up one at a time. Okay? That's how you can control focus. Okay? So then I talk about one. I'm ready to talk over here. If I leave this up, you're always going to wander back to that. But what I do is I go to here, and now I control attention.
I have a question.
Yes?
If you do that, like isolate the message, is that considered one message per slide then?
If you're forced to be in that situation, yes. If it were up to me, I'll show you. It is up to me next. So, and then at the bottom, again, for each of these, I'm bringing them down to a new section, but I'm showing them, there's the concept. That's where I'm sending their attention. Now, if you get distracted and you suddenly come back, even if you lost it, where's your attention going to go? Right to there. However, if I had this and you lost my attention, you have to make a split-second decision. Do I try to jump back in the game or do I just check out? Most of the time they check out, hence the 10% that they retain. So what I'm going to do is, let's just take a quick swipe at this, because I did another group and we actually did an exercise with the people in the room. And so what I did, the first thing I did, went to my black background, brought up the picture, because the group decided that that was important. Okay? We wanted to talk, what was important to them was they were switching to Anthem. The conversation was on Anthem. So they wanted the attention there. Now, when I look at all the content on this slide, what are the takeaways? Like, what am I trying to do? What are they trying to tell me? What do I need to understand and take away? That's where the simplification is. Because we're trying to accomplish all this, but they're never going to process and remember and retain. So I went back to the group and I said, what's the most important thing on these slides? Okay? And what they came back with was, well, the high deductible plan, if they're looking and considering that, it has lower premiums. That's important to people. It's less money out of each paycheck that's out there. That's a pretty big decision driver. But there's a trade-off. The insurance deductible is higher, okay? So I'm talking to them. I still see that you're with me. I can see the eyes up here focused. What colors did I use when I introduce a new section? What am I doing to grab your attention? Red, and I'm bringing them in with fades or animation. So it's movement. So I'm controlling you. Again with this, and then I can talk about the overall money out of pocket, things to consider, situations. And I always love playing scenarios when they're trying to decide high deductible plan or PPO. And I'll ask them questions, and that's why I'll say now, if you're a family of 3 and you have a lot of expenses, and I'll go through the scenario, then this might be better for you. If you're younger, if you don't have a lot of healthcare expenses, if you'd rather have more money in your pocket, but you have the money in case something happens, we'll take them through that scenario. Instead of just leaving it out there and saying, higher deductible, lower premiums, and letting them guess, by me giving them situations, they're putting themselves in that situation. They will remember and react appropriately for you, okay? I can't even look at this slide, okay? And the reason I bring this slide up, other than to tell you please never do this, okay, is first of all, we like to brand, and this is the other question. I'm a marketing person, but nothing drives me crazier than when we send a PowerPoint to a group before the meeting and they send it to their Marcom department, okay? Suddenly they become benefits experts. And we want to do this picture. And why do we have the medical deductible under medical? Why don't we have it back here behind pet insurance? I mean, it's stuff like that that just blows your mind. Well, it looks better. It's balanced more, okay? What I'm saying is, like, in a situation where you have a chart and graph like this, good luck getting them in, okay? Because they want to brand it. And this is a slide that was rebranded and sent back to us. Red is their primary color. Okay, is that the most important thing on this page? Are the headings, are the X and Y labels the most important? No. It's what's happening in here. But even with that being said, when I'm in here, it's like, I don't even know what is most important here. Like, what are you trying to tell them? And so that's what you need to do, is go back and say, if this slide was explaining to you what is most important, what would those be? Like, I can only walk away with one message from this slide. So what is that message? And then work backwards to create that. Object and perceptive limits. This is one of, yes?
Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
In the previous color and size matter, I think you said they noticed 4 things, and somehow I only wrote down 3 things.
Oh, large objects.
So moving, signaling.
High contrast, and I'm sorry about that. The 4th one is large objects. So think about it. Whenever there are things when you walk, that's where the expression "the elephant in the room" comes from. Okay? It will always grab your attention when you walk in. Now, if it's a moving large object, even more so. Object and perceptive limits. We have a finite number of things that we can process at one time before our brain goes into overdrive. Okay? And we're going to go through, this is an experiment that we will go through. And so when I look at this slide, how many objects do you see on that slide? Count them up for me. Anybody got a number? Who's over 10? Who's over 12? Who's over 14? 17 objects on this page. And would you say, in your estimation, based off of slides that you've shown before, that this is probably not out of the ordinary for information on slides? Okay? 17 objects. So am I able to process, even if I want to, am I able to? So to that end, we are going to do an experiment. On the next slide, I'm going to throw up on the screen a number of bouncy balls. Once the second, this is a speed thing. The second you know how many balls are on that screen, I want you to raise your hand, okay? And we're gonna go till I see all hands in the air. So, are we ready? Okay, how many? 10. How many? 10. How many? 10. Okay. Wasn't sure. Okay, that took you, on average, the average is 2.1 seconds. Okay, ready for the next one? How many? 7. Was that faster? Okay. 1.2 seconds is the average on that. I have one more. Okay, ready? Hands went in the air instantly, didn't they? Why is that? Why?
Yeah, you can see it all at once.
You saw it. You didn't have to, many of you didn't have to count, really, did you? You just like instantly could look at it and process it quickly. That's 0.2 seconds, the average time. Now, let's just look. We went from 2.1 down to 1.2, down to, 2.1, 1.2, down to 0.2 seconds. That is a 500% faster time, okay? Do you know why that is? Do you know what you were doing on this slide, in this slide when you looked at it? You counted it, and then before you were ready to raise your hand, your brain had to recreate the picture. You counted it, your brain recreated the picture, and then you had the answer top of mind. Whereas with this one, you didn't have to create a picture, did you? You instantly saw it. The reason I bring this up is because for that one split second, think about when you're talking to someone and it's a busy slide like that, okay? And they lose you for a second. And in order for them to get back and get reacclimated, we were just looking at 5 circles and we still had to process that, okay? We looked at 10 circles and our brain had to process that. Can your brain, for each one of these, your brain has to create a picture, create a picture, create a picture. So you have a choice to make. How many of you would jump back into the conversation and say, I really want to learn this? How many of you would go back down to your cell phone and say, if they'll tell me if I'm doing something wrong, okay? What we want to do is put them in a situation so that the slides, the presentation, the handout, what you're giving to them, they can immediately process and then focus on what is important in the message. We're making it easier. We're wiping out obstacles for them. Oh, so, I just blew the thing. So what is the right number of objects? We had 10. We had what? 7, and we had 5. What is the right number that your brain can process?
5 or less. 3, really.
Okay, 5. We have 5. Anyone else? 6, 3. All right. The answer is sex, okay? Sex is the Swedish number for 6, okay? I'm doing that because red, am I grabbing your attention? Sex, do I have your attention now? Came here for benefits and we're talking about the board, okay? That's the Swedish number. You will remember that though. When you are sitting down to doing a presentation, you will remember that and you will smile the first time it happens. I've had people email me and said, I sat down and I was working on a presentation and I thought of you. I said, thanks, Dwayne, that makes me feel good. But that is the right number, and you will remember. There are 6 objects. Anything over 6, start thinking about the exponential amount of brain power that it's going to require for them just to keep up with you, just to stay in the moment. So that's what I'm saying is it's like many of us have failure to launch with our decks. They're not going to work before the employee sees the cover slide. We want to set up our employees for success. Understand where they're coming from, okay? How many people have seen The Rain Man? Okay, great movie. It's, oh my gosh, more and more, every time I tell that story, it's like less people. The Rain Man is a movie. No. It was a movie that took place, I loved it because it was much of it was filmed in Cincinnati. But it's the story of 2 brothers, Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman, who reconnect after years and years of being apart. And Dustin Hoffman is an autistic savant, okay? And they are traveling across country, and they're in a diner in the Midwest, and during the course of the conversation, a waitress is walking by the table with a tray, and on it is a box of toothpicks, and she drops it really loud. Tom Cruise, Dustin Hoffman look over, and immediately Dustin Hoffman says, 246. Instantly. He has a very high perceptive level of perceptiveness, okay? Would we all agree that that's out of the ordinary? Okay. He's exceptional in that, okay? We build PowerPoint decks thinking our audience are all autistic or savants, okay? Because they have a very high capacity to look at things differently and process things differently. But we think everybody has that ability, and it's just not the case that's out there, okay? So think about that when you are building your slides, your deck that's out there, how many objects are on each slide, okay? Number 9, keep them engaged, okay? Your job is not just presenter, yes? Number 8, oh. Where is it? It was object, the number of objects, and then perceptive limit is what I forgot to put the 9 there. Wait a minute, hold on here. Wait a minute, wait a minute. It's hold on here. Let me go back. I'm not using the deck I had before. I'll come back to 8, okay? We'll go back though. Keep them engaged. Your job as a presenter is to entertain, I don't want to say entertain them, but your job is to make sure that their focus stays on you. There are ways in this room where if I see somebody starting to, I don't want to say nod off, but if I see that you're distracted, I can make eye contact and a smile, and immediately they're drawn back in. The other thing I can do is maybe just ask an open-ended question to the group, but make it even a specific person that you know is engaged so that you're not embarrassing anyone. But when you're asked, because when we ask closed-ended questions, what is somebody always going to answer? Or it's just fine. Does everybody understand this? Why? Because they checked out, but they see everybody else, they see a question asked, or fine, because that's the old standby. How you doing? Fine. Okay. So what I'm saying is make your eye contact. I encourage people to bring their cell phones into meetings, okay? Because I will always try with the bigger group. The bigger the group, the harder the job it is to keep them engaged. So throughout my presentation, I will periodically throw up survey questions and have them respond. I'll do pulse surveys in the middle of it. We're keeping them engaged. If you do, like a lot of our groups use Explore, and one of the ways they get there is through a QR code. So when you're explaining it, instead of one person just watching the presenter go through it, I encourage them to pull out their phones, hit the QR code, and suddenly we're going back and forth. They're seeing it in motion. They're creating a credible case in their mind because I just told them it was easy to use. They're using it and it's easy to use. They're more likely to use it. Okay? So I agree very much in using surveys. I like music. I like video. Why do I like music and video? Moving objects. And what we're doing, we're now tapping in on one of our senses, but we're doing it in a creative way. Music puts you in a different mindset. It opens you up. And so when you're able to use music, did you notice I had music at the beginning and even as people were coming into the room? What that does is that sets your guard down. Music is a great tool to use to set a mood in the room. And I would suggest everybody, when you have employee meetings and stuff, it's a pump-up session. It's you are delivering the message, and it's your attitude that you're bringing, okay? It's your energy, and it's your excitement. The first time I presented this content, I was nervous, okay? I knew it, but I was nervous. Every time I do it, it's actually, I feel most calm right before I go up and start presenting. Because I feel like I know the content. My job now is to give you that content, but be enthusiastic about it. Because if you believe it, do you guys believe that I believe in what I'm talking about here? Does it feel like I'm phoning it in? I truly believe this because I've seen it, and it's worked, okay? And so your job is to keep them engaged, okay? Now, how do you do that? Let's go back to the thing when we talked at the beginning of the meeting, when we said why open enrollment meetings don't work and the problem with benefit communication is because even in a great situation, half of your people want to be there to learn something, to take something away. Half the people are there because if they don't show up, they'll get in trouble. Let's be real, okay? So right away, you've got half the room that you've got to keep engaged, okay? So my job is to think about what can I do to make sure I don't lose any more, and how do I perhaps bring those people in? So I have to put myself in their shoes. Well, why don't they care about being in that room? And I think we said it before. The benefits may not apply to them. If it's a younger person, they could still be on their parents' plan, right? So they don't care, even though they're going to be enrolling in your benefits next year, and they're as illiterate as they could possibly be about benefits, but they don't want to be there. And then the second you start talking about a benefit that doesn't apply to them, you've lost them. I'll give you an example. We always try to touch on retirement as an option for people, employees that are working there, that are 65 and still working. Maybe they're considering early retirement. Maybe they have a spouse that just turned 65, okay? If that's not the case, it doesn't really apply to you, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to check out. I've seen decks that have been sent to me, and I see 3 and 4 slides on retirement. And by the time they get through that information, which is 5 minutes of something that applies to 2 people in the room, we have lost everyone. Look at your meeting deck and figure out what is going to keep everybody engaged, what is most important, and you prioritize, and you put that up there. So in the situation of retirement, what we have done is I recreated the slide. 1 slide, 4 pictures. And you know what the pictures are? Somebody that's 65 and retired, someone that's still working, okay? Trying to say 65, working, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for the right word here. I just blanked. So it's 1 slide, but all we're saying is, anybody in the room here meet this criteria? Anyone in here over 65? I'm not going to say you're still working because they're sitting in the room. They're one of your employees. You know that. How many are thinking about anybody, if anybody is in here, 65, still working, you're thinking about retiring, but you're really worried about healthcare costs, what you're going to do there? You have a spouse that's 65 that's out there, or you have a child that, there's the thing, you have a child that may need gap coverage. They're being kicked off your plan because they're over, they're 26 over, and for whatever reason, they're still living in the basement of your house and need a plan. If that applies to anyone, I want you to find me after the meeting because I have something that may be a better option for you with less money out of your pocket. Boom. Now I'm moving on. I've spent like 20 to 30 seconds and I didn't allow people to check out. The fact that I was asking them questions, they're still staying engaged because something may come up where it applies to them. So it's a lot is how we present it, how long we present it, and what is either going to drive higher engagement or drive people away. So think about that as you're organizing your benefits, as you're going through them. What am I really going to go through on this slide? Does it only apply to 10% of the people? Here's the other thing with your open enrollment meetings. I don't know how many of you have adapted because I know there's a little bit, we like tradition, okay? Boy, I know, HR and benefits people, I know this shocks you, but they have a tendency to not embrace change as rapidly as others. Because what we like stability. We don't want to rock the boat because that's going to make people unhappy, and you guys are, you're the culture keepers. You know what I mean? So you want to keep a steady boat that's out there. But what happens is you just lose people. Because in a meeting, what do we think? We're having a meeting. Does anybody have questions in this room? Do you guys always ask that? So what questions do you have? Do people have questions? This is my moment to disagree with you. They have questions. Are they going to ask that question in the room? Why? I don't want to ask medical questions in front of my coworkers, okay? It's a private situation. But what we do is we spend a lot of time in there and we think they didn't have questions, everybody's happy, everybody's going to move out. No, what happens is if they don't get that opportunity to have their question answered, they walk out of that meeting and you did not accomplish your goal with them. So here's my rule as far as attention. Your open enrollment meetings is a business meeting. It should be no longer than 15 to 20 minutes should be your target. If it's over 20 minutes, you have not simplified enough. And if you're still having trouble simplifying, call me and I can sit down with you and show you how you can do it. Because look at each slide, and as you go through and you're looking at bullet points, say, is this important to mention because it's going to influence their decision whether or not to enroll in the benefit or not. If that is going to influence their decision on whether or not to enroll, then by all means, you need to include that. But if it's something that they need to more effectively get more out of their plan, that goes to the parking lot. We make a note of that. We put that over into a separate file for engagement throughout the year. But that is not important in that moment. How, like a date, like I see people when they talk about flexible spending accounts, they put dates to turn in claims and they do the process. Oh my God, they put email addresses and web addresses, like links in the presentation, like a person sitting in the chair. It's like, you're going to go to voya.com/89326/SH9PX, exclamation point, ampersand, whatever. They're not even looking at that. They're not remembering phone numbers, okay? You can put dates up there, but I'm telling you, they're not going to remember. So what you do is you talk to them, we have a conversation, and because it's a business meeting, it's a transaction. Do you know what lets people's anxiety lower? When they have things to do, when they have a punch list, a checklist. Because with all of us, when you make a checklist around your house and you start checking things off, what does that do to your psyche? You feel like you've accomplished something. You've conquered it. You're better than the task that you were doing. So give them a checklist that they can take with them out of the meeting. But don't expect them, and here's the other thing, don't give them a 35-slide PowerPoint deck. What you need to give them is that punch list and no more than 1 page of everything they've got to do or things that are important for them to reconsider or reinforce before they're selecting their benefits. Okay? And so I would tell you, less is more, simple is better. Bigger is no longer better unless you're trying to get their attention, okay? Then bigger is better. But what I'm saying is you need to simplify things to its most basic element that is out there, okay? And message dictates medium. Okay? I get asked this all the time because when I'll meet a new client we're going through, and they'll say, oh, we want you to rebrand our benefit booklet. We want to do video. We want to do it all for open enrollment. So we talk about it, and it's like the yeah and. So when I talk to them, I'm like, have you ever considered doing a microsite? Yeah, and the PowerPoint presentation, and the benefit booklet, and a separate video that we're going to send to them. And what I'm saying is no, okay? 1 medium to communicate, 2 max to reinforce, okay? So let's walk through that. Let's look at open enrollment, which is transactional. And The other thing I said, I don't know if you picked up on it earlier, they should walk into the meeting with their anxiety level down because you have shared a lot of the important information that they care about. So what I challenge employers to do is, first of all, if you have a benefit booklet, get rid of it, okay? Because it's great. It's great if you want to do it so you can check a box to say, I offer a benefit booklet. But when was the last time an employee looked at their benefit booklet, or if they could locate their benefit booklet? Okay, what do they do when they have a question? Yeah, okay. So you're going through an exercise, you're adding noise to them, which means nothing, and then they get frustrated because they're like, they look at the book and they immediately make a decision. You expect me to go hunting through this entire book to get an answer, when all I have to do is dial 3168 and you can answer my question, okay? So think about what's important. If they have that one sheet of paper, something's coming up, give them the information they need to enroll in benefits that's out there. So for open enrollment, what I recommend with the mediums is this is me, and I know my team's probably sitting in the back of the room in shock. I believe in print to start off with. And I believe in print because I'm not worried about that employee. My bigger concern is the spouse or the partner that's at home that's making all the healthcare decisions. And so what I'm going to do is 30 days out from open enrollment, I'm sending them a postcard. Open enrollment is 30 days away, and here's what's changing. What? We can't do that. We can't tell them what's in the meeting before the meeting, okay? Here's what you don't do. Don't send them a postcard, like I said earlier, and say, big changes coming to open enrollment. And you don't give them any information. And so you've got 30 days of people out on the factory floor talking to each other. Oh, they're probably going to change to this. I saw that my friend, my neighbor, this is what they did in their case. The absence of information, people create their own narrative. What's wrong to let them know that we're changing medical carriers? Okay? What's wrong with letting them know that we're adding a new mental health benefit for them? Okay? So let them know your first communication is what's changing. Your second communication is 2 weeks out, and that's an email, or it could be a text message with a link inside the text message. Okay? If you could only tell me I could only use one communication medium for the rest of my life to communicate with employees, I would pick text messaging based on today. Why? How many people get over 100 emails a day at work? Do you go through and scan each one right away? Does that always grab your attention when you're at your desk? No. You get a text message, something blinks or buzzes or moves on your phone, where did your eyes instantly go? And I've seen a couple people in here, like they look at their watch and then they look at their phone because we're conditioned to react to immediate stimulus. Stimuli. Stimulum. I'm doing my Latin again. I'm conjugating verbs now. Okay, but here's what I would say about that, is it's okay to give them rates or talk about rates in your second communication, or speak in general terms. We're having a very minimal increase or whatever. You can say that we've looked. You know, there are ways that you can couch how you talk about the benefits, okay? And the third one is perhaps a text message, last reminder. The reason I like the text message is tomorrow's open enrollment. When you come into the meeting, make sure you bring this and this to the meeting. We encourage you to bring your cell phones. You know what? If your spouse would like to join us, they can join via Zoom, or they could join us in person. I'm always a proponent in inviting the spouses to come to your open enrollment meetings. Then what you do is at the very beginning of the meeting, you're saying, this is going to operate a little bit different than we've done in the past. We're going to talk about benefits, things that are most important to all of us in the room. But then what we're going to do is we're going to set up some table sits here on the side. because I'm sure that many of you have questions, and we're going to give you the privacy so that you can get answers to your questions so that you can enroll in your benefits. The other thing I want to say is in the past, we may have gone a little bit deeper than we are today. But we recognize that the reason you're here today and your biggest concern is what plans are best for me and my family? What should I enroll in? So that's what we're going to focus on today, are the things that you need to make the right decision and enroll in the right plan. After today, we're going to communicate more regularly with you throughout the year, because if you're like me, I want to know about benefits when I need to access benefits. I want to know in that moment, and then when I'm done, I want to forget about benefits until I need it again. So we're going to work on a strategy to do just that. So when you're in a pharmacy and you're trying to decide, the pharmacist is encouraging me to use a good RX card and not run it through my plan. How do I know? How do you know which one is the right decision? Those are the types of things we're going to help you with. If you're on a high-cost prescription drug, did you know that there are programs available to bring down your copay and make them affordable for you? We're going to tell you about stuff like that. Ultimately, all of the things that we'll share with you throughout the year is going to put money back in your pocket, and it's going to make sure that when you need care, you're always getting the highest quality care. Now, you're sitting across from me. Do you feel confident now in me, in my ability to deliver the message? Do you feel like there's a well thought out plan? I didn't come up here and say, open enrollment takes place October 1st. Oh, you're in here. It's October 5th. It's like, think about them. We never think, when we're doing PowerPoints, in all honesty, do you stop and pause and think a lot about the employee? And this is how they're going to receive this. In all honesty, we're tired, we're frazzled. Schmantham didn't get us our renewal until 10 o'clock last night, so I've got to now drop in the rates, and we've got to, it's like, I know, I'm giving you situations, and it always sounds like it's an ideal world situation, but the reality is, you're going to be pumped up. Some of you will be pumped up. Some of you will be relieved here in the next 2 minutes, okay? But you're going to go back and you're going to be excited. And then you're going to see that red blinking light on your desk. And everything we just talked about is forgotten, okay? So I understand that. But what I want to challenge you all to do is, as you prepare any piece of communication, if it's an email, if it's a voicemail, if it's a text message, if it's a printed flyer that you're hanging in the bathroom, read that, and I want you to answer the question with them. What's in it for me? Put yourself in their shoes and say, will they act on this? Do they need to act on it? Why is it important for them? If it's not important, don't do it. Like, I will tell you, we get flyers from carriers all the time, and they want us to send them out to people. And it offers zero value to them. So in the world of social media today, you all have a choice. In the past, you couldn't really decide what to do. Like, you couldn't opt out. You could decide the way that we communicated, the way we received it. Now with social media, what do we do instantly? We make a snap judgment. Like it, hate it, unfollow, or reply and skewer them, okay? Those are our different options that we have out there. They have the exact same option when they are communicating with you. So how are you going to show up differently for them? Okay? So, exam time. Very first slide, I think we answered this already. What was the picture? Donut. How many messages should you have in each PowerPoint slide? One. What are the three signaling colors? Maximum number of objects on a slide or handout? 6. And blank effect is when you read the text straight from a PowerPoint slide or handout while you're presenting. That's it. Is that more than 10%? I was just trying to think, I can't believe you put me on the spot like that. I was going back. You know what I did? I realized this as I was going back. when I presented this isn't the deck this is my second deck, what was it? What about if I send it to you? I can't remember. It was the order, and I do apologize. Phil? Oh, somebody left the phone up front? Oh, right here. So, hey, who wants to open the phone and look at the last message? No. Yeah. So that's what I do. I'll tell you what, here's another icebreaker. I try to do it with my team, just even break the ice and diffuse people when you come in. Put a couple questions on there, like, would you rather? Would you rather walk around, I'm trying to think of like things that you do, but it instantly gets people in a less defensive posture. It's like, oh, for the rest of your life, you could only eat strawberry Jell-O, or over here, it's like you have to pay for everything with pennies the rest of your life. Like, which one? And so we do things like that, and that really gets people's energy up, and then you're ready to dive right in. And what I do is I will periodically do pulse checks throughout. Everybody following me? Who has the courage to raise their hand and say, I've got a question, or I don't get that? I encourage people to speak up. And speak out, because that's the only way we will get better, is through feedback, okay? Because I see open enrollment presentations, and they are one way. It's just me speaking to you, and that's not the best. You are at your best when the communication's going back and forth. It certainly helps when you can read the room. Always look around the room and find 2 or 3 friendly faces in the crowd that you're going to key on, and keep going back to those people when you feel like you're in a difficult spot. I will say normally, if this were my first presentation and I got the numbers messed up, I would be sitting here having a cow, okay? I'm calm, I mess up, I'm a human, I move on. And boy, that last one better be good for all of you, right? It better be life altering, but I promise I will get that out to you. I know we're almost to the end of our time. What questions can I answer for you?
So we have employees all over the United States working remotely. What suggestions do you have to engage the audience when you're on a screen showing up as, a 2-inch square?
Yeah, so what I try to do is I also try to split the screen so that it's not just about the PowerPoint deck. I always make sure that I have the person pinned that's presenting. The other thing you do is you do the surveys through a Zoom or a Teams. You ask them specifically. And what I would do is find out the people that are out there remotely, and I would even tell them when they're coming online or whatever in the chat, just say, hey, I know it's a little bit harder when we're online, but I may reach out and ask you a question during it. If you say that, they're locked and loaded the whole meeting. And you can even say, hey, for everybody that's listening, and tell people in the room, hey, we're lucky we've got everybody in the room here, but we have 5 or 6 people, remote. We have people out in Des Moines or, Las Vegas that are joining us today. So could everybody give them a round of applause and welcome them? And then after that, and may even say, hey, Devin in San Diego, any questions about this? Are you good? Or what do you think? Are you excited about this new benefit? You can get people remotely involved, but you have to be more intentional about making it 2-way. Right there, if it's 1 way, what they're going to do is, the other thing is, after the meeting, don't worry about it. I'm going to send out a recording link so you can watch it at your leisure. How does that work? Would you do it? You're the benefits person. Are you going to go home and watch this in your free time? No. But what I've just done is I've given them permission to check out. And we don't do that, okay? When they come into the meeting, they're going to get 1 piece of paper. It befuddles me, too, why people want to make copies of every PowerPoint presentation and give it to them. Because, again, you're thinking they're going to do like I would do and flip through each one to get an answer to a slide. They're not doing that. And instantly, what are they doing when they get that PowerPoint? When you get a PowerPoint and you walk into a room, what's the first thing you do? Do you start flipping through it? How many slides are they on? And 10 minutes into the presentation, if I'm on still slide 3 of 200, what's happening? You're instantly going, oh my God, what's my emergency gonna be that I have to step out of the meeting, okay? Think about it. Bring your real life into benefits. Think about the things that annoy you when you're driving, when you're ordering food, okay? When you go to order food, do they mail you a printed menu with all the stuff you need to know about it, how the fructose corn syrup is mixed and put together and everything? No. Less is more. They can order an entire meal for their family, customize it, and they can do it in 30 seconds off of an app. And we're using paper. With the bigger the booklet, the better person you are, the more competent you are, okay? I've got something tangible I can give to my boss at review time. Look what I did. I did a benefit booklet, okay? Where your attention should be is, you know what? I've got a satisfied work population. I had 20% fewer calls coming into HR. I will tell you this. We had clients that started adopting this last fall. We were really interested to see how it was working. Checked back with some of them. They said, we got simpler. We doubted you. It was the best thing we did. They did a short meeting. They broke it off, did table sits. No questions coming in. Whereas before, they were inundated because we gave more is better. More is, and you know what? If they ever come back to us, we can say, well, we put it in there. I want you to go to page 1387, paragraph 2, sub-bullet C. Okay? How do you make it easier? And here's something to tee up. Next year, if you want, I've thought about doing a class on more advanced AI for HR and benefits. I've got clients creating those offer letters, generational. I've got them going through and auditing their SPDs. I'm having them set up AI so that they can, just by uploading a summary plan description and some benefit information, there's AI tools where they can ask the question. They don't even come to HR anymore. And what we do with that is every time an answer is given, it gives them a link to the source. So it is documented. Your job is to make life easier for your employees so that they can get the most out of their benefit plan. When they understand it, when they utilize it in an effective manner, that's your value to the organization with employee benefits. So, any other questions?
So last year we ditched the booklet and we ditched the whole long presentation thing. We consolidated it to 15, 20 minutes like you suggest. But our problem is like right now, I have no idea when our open enrollment is. And I usually don't know until about 24 to 48 hours before because our stop loss carrier takes forever
Yeah.
and our renewals are delayed every year.
Yeah.
So how do I do like number 10 where you're saying
You-
30-day postcard and all
Yeah.
that? Like I don't have that luxury.
A compressed timeline is printing will always take longer. It's just, it's more intensive. What I would do is immediately run, I would immediately go to text messaging because it's going to reach them fast and it's going to get to the people that you need it to get to. Now, the challenge you have there is it doesn't always get to the spouse either. So I would even put in the text message, the first thing is, please, after you read this text, please forward it to your spouse or share it with them. And that's where you say, open enrollment, and this is the way you couch it too, is you say, it seems like we're a little late getting some information to you closer to the meeting, but it's because we're working on great things. We're trying to get you the best benefit plan that we can. And so it's taken a little bit longer, but please know this. We are looking at a medical carrier change. We're working through the final details, and we're still adding a mental health benefit. You can still give them pieces of information in there, but you may have to, when push comes to shove, text messaging is the best that you can use.
We do use one call now for like emergencies and stuff, so I can maybe use that as a resource.
Yes.
Just giving them literally a 24 to 48 hour notice of when the meetings are.
Yep.
Including myself. Like I can't build the PowerPoint, I can't do any of that
No, you can't. And that's the thing is you don't need to, like your lives, it's going to be a little bit harder the first time you're doing it because it's going to be uncomfortable and different. But even with medical, like even if you only have a day to do it, what is the most important thing they need to know about the new medical plan? It's switching here. Then you think about put yourself in their shoes because the number one cause of anxiety, and I'm sorry, we are really to time. I'll finish on this one, then I'll be available for other questions. What is the number one source of anxiety for employees? Do you know it? It's from our member survey that we did, member journey survey. A carrier change is and you think about it from your perspective. Isn't that the worst thing in the world for you as a medical carrier change?
Especially last minute.
Yeah, last minute. But you're in the know. And you know all about it. If you're outside and you don't even know there's a carrier change coming or whatever, there's a lot of anxiety that's out there. And so what you want to do is say, there's a carrier change, but we have really done our due diligence to make sure that it's a smooth transition. In fact, what we're going to do after this meeting is we've got a sheet. It's a punch list of things that you can do between now and the end of the year to make sure that when we start next year with UMR, you're all set and good to go. Again, it's a change. What are we doing? We're giving them a punch list, which we have, by the way. If you're ever looking for a carrier change punch list, we have those. But what I've just done is I've empowered them. They've taken something where they have a lot of questions because they're wondering, what about the prescription I'm on? My son's still in physical therapy. My wife is pregnant. How is all this? These are the things that bother them, that are worried about. And so if there's a carrier change, think about it. We need to disarm them. So what we're going to do, one of the things we're going to address is what the transition looks like. We understand that you're all in different situations. And so we have a solution, we have an answer for all of you. Here's this sheet, and it'll tell you everything you need to do from prescriptions to doctors to appointments. And now I've disarmed them. But the rest of it is, I'm only going to talk about, remember, 3 messages in there. What's changed, that thing? Heard it once or twice from me, okay? Take this route. Your PowerPoints don't have to be as elaborate as they were before. But think about what is most important on each slide. So, thank you so much. I will be available up here, and certificates will be mailed out later on today, I believe. So thank you.
Schedule some time with you.
Yeah.
And I'm presenting tomorrow at the employee meeting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask Rose if I could change my slides.
No,
real
I
quick.
wouldn't. You know what?
I love it. I love it. This is wonderful and
Because
it's great.
the thing is,
But I
Aaron,
might
you
want
know
your
it.
help.
The thing is,
Yes.
you know it, but you
Right.
put it up there because
Right.
you're worried you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So, but no, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the message,
So-
but yeah, I
Yeah.
probably want to
Okay.
connect with you. So I will
Thank-
say, just quick answer, we can talk more about it later. But we weren't planning on scheduling an open enrollment meeting, which is probably a mistake. So we might have to do that for the future. But
yeah,
quick
we
thought.
can. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
That's no problem.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You
Well
too.
done.
Thank you. Here, I'll get the door open for you. Are you waiting for Ellie by any chance?
No. I'm
Okay. Hey, give me 1 second here. Let me get this.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
We don't have, when we do open enrollment, we don't have a presentation board. What do you suggest? in
What do you
that?
use?
So Jordan is our McGowan Brave Vendor rep. The last few years, she has come out and just talked from the benefit booklet.
Yeah.
And you know how Jordan is. So
Yeah.
that is what we've done.
You can
in the
talk.
past.
Honestly, what we've done in other groups where they don't do a PowerPoint is we've tried we've done everything for groups. I had one group that we made it a boxing theme. They themed their open enrollment. It was like the heavyweight matchup or whatever.
Yeah.
And we built like on the front of the state, like it was all branded for that. And then what we did for all of our main slides is it was a piece of poster board, and we had like a person walking around like for the round of the different thing, and they held it up there. And we even drew pictures of like a family. We've done others where we brought up stuffed animals and used examples. So you can think about how can I tell a story to do it? And you don't need, if you're really good, you don't need PowerPoint slides if you're effective. So people remember that too. They remember weird things.
Yeah, because
So.
I know you said not to print them out and hand
Oh,
them to
it drives
them
me, when I see people at the copier, it just,
Yeah,
it's a
so-
trigger for me. Because it's a waste of time and money.
Which I don't
Yeah.
disagree, so.
So, all right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi.
Hey, any suggestions on SharePoint website design for benefits? Because it's,
Here's,
I mean, it's a monster, right? And to your point, by the way, I love the storytelling. Trainer by nature.
Oh,
So,
okay,
like,
good, yeah.
It is my favorite. Like when people do some of those things, you're just like, oh my gosh, please stop, you're killing me.
Yeah.
But we need to find a way to have a place where people can get information.
yeah, so you have SharePoint there. I think, and here's the other thing that we've worked towards, because we're like, yeah, the microsites are important, but at the point in time they need it, is the microsite best? Because when I'm in it, I need to can I get to it from a doctor's office? Can I get to it from a pharmacy? Can my spouse, who's making most of the decisions?
right.
And so that's why, and that was one reason that we had created Explore here, was it was a way anybody could have it on their phone, even the kid at school. My kids use it. And we then built, and then I thought about it, I was like, it's a great first step in doing that. But I was like, again, it was like people have to go in now and they still have to search for the information stuff. So
we have 1,000 fully field remote employees.
Yeah.
They all have company equipment.
yeah,
So for them,
it would be, yeah, it could be
it's
easy.
a place.
So what you want to do though within your SharePoint is you need to have some search capabilities so that they can, or even like with SharePoint, I believe that I would talk to your IT department, because I don't know if you guys are using, what is it called for the AI version for Microsoft that's in there?
What, like the Copilot?
Yeah, Copilot. Do you guys have that activated?
Not for everybody. Only
Okay.
select few.
Well, I was going to say
Only a
that.
few.
See, that's where you get supercharged, because what you can do is you can set up that instance so that it doesn't look outside of. It doesn't look outside of it. It
okay.
keeps everything silent. Like
Okay.
when we built Explore for our clients, we did it so like, which employer are you with? I'm sorry.
Alternate Solutions,
Okay.
ASHN.
Yeah, okay, so everything in there, it will never share any information with the internet. It will never let any information out of there, but it learns from itself. So we load in, like for alternate solutions, we would load in your SPDs, we would load in all the benefit information, we would let in consumer information, et cetera. All you have to do now when you go in is you just